My husband strictly forbidden me from visiting his farm. After he died, I found texts between him and my sister plotting to take everything. I drove to the farm to confront the truth. When I opened the door, I gasped because inside was. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, grab a warm cup of tea and get comfortable. I'd love to know what time of day you're watching this video. Please comment M4 morning, A4 afternoon, or E4 evening. Now, let me take you into this story. Is she gone yet? That voice. I would know that voice anywhere. It was high-pitched, laced with a kind of bratty entitlement that had grated on my nerves for 29 years. It was my sister, Kylie. But it was the man's laughter that followed, a deep, rich baritone that used to make my stomach do flip-flops, that made the world stop spinning. It was Richard. My husband. The man whose funeral I was currently standing at, wearing a black dress that felt too tight around my ribs, suffocating me in the humid Florida air. I stared at the phone in my hand. It was Richard's phone, the screen spiderwebbed with cracks from the crash that had killed him 3 days ago. The lawyer, Mr. Steinberg, had handed it to me just 20 minutes ago in a plastic evidence bag, offering his condolences with a grimace that suggested he knew more than he was saying. I had slipped into the reception hall's bathroom, desperate for a moment of silence away from the murmurs of what a tragedy and so young. I just wanted to feel close to him one last time. I wanted to see his wallpaper, maybe read our last texts. Instead, I had plugged it into the wall outlet by the sink, waited for the battery icon to flicker to life, and unlocked it. His passcode was still the same, 1234. He always said he was too busy for complicated security. I opened the gallery. The most recent video file was dated the morning of the accident. My trembling finger hovered over the play button, expecting perhaps a video of a job site, or maybe a selfie he took to send to me later. I pressed play. The video was shaky at first. It showed two hands clinking champagne flutes against a backdrop of rolling green hills and a pristine white fence. Is she gone yet? Kylie's voice came from off-camera, then the lens swung around. There she was, my little sister, looking radiant and smug, wearing a white sundress I had bought for her birthday last month. She was sitting on the hood of Richard's car. The old donkey? Richard's voice boomed from behind the camera. Almost. I just need her to sign the release for the western lot. Once she signs that, claiming it's for liability reasons, we kick her to the curb. She'll be homeless by Christmas, baby. Kylie giggled, throwing her head back. I can't wait. I'm so sick of living in that apartment. I want to move into our manor full-time. When are you going to tell the idiot that her investments are actually paying for my shoe closet? Soon, Richard said. The camera moved closer, and I saw his face enter the frame as he leaned in to kiss her. It wasn't a brotherly peck. It was hungry, possessive. Just let me handle the paperwork. Meredith is so desperate to please me, she'd sign her own death warrant if I told her it would help my business. The video ended. I stood there, frozen. The bathroom tiles were cold beneath my heels, but my entire body felt like it was on fire. A donkey. An idiot. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was 42, with tired eyes and hair that had started graying early, which I dyed faithfully because Richard said he preferred me as a brunette. I looked at the woman who had spent the last 15 years building Richard's career, designing his landscapes, managing his books, and nursing his ego. And then I thought of what was happening outside that bathroom door. My mother, Patricia, was out there. She was crying into a lace handkerchief, accepting condolences on behalf of the devastated family. And Kylie. Kylie was out there, too. I had seen her earlier, checking her makeup in her compact mirror, complaining that the catering service hadn't brought enough shrimp cocktail. They knew. My knees gave way. I sank to the floor, the cold porcelain of the sink digging into my back. I replayed the words in my head. Our manor. Investments. homeless by Christmas. Richard hadn't just died. He had been planning to destroy me. And he wasn't doing it alone. He was doing it with my own sister. A knock on the door startled me. Meredith? It was my mother's voice. Impatient. Sharp. Meredith, are you in there? The guests are leaving. You need to say goodbye to the senator. Stop hiding. You know how it looks when you're antisocial. I looked down at the phone. A notification popped up on the cracked screen. A text message. It was from a contact labeled K. Did you tell the idiot yet? I can't wait to move into our farm. Also, bring cash when you come this weekend. I need a mani-pedi. The timestamp was from 4 days ago. The day before he died. My mother knocked again, harder this time. Meredith! Open this door. Kylie is waiting for a ride, and she's getting headache from the heat. I stood up. My legs felt like lead, but a strange, cold clarity was washing over me. The grief that had been drowning me for 3 days suddenly evaporated, replaced by something harder. Something jagged. I looked at the phone one last time. The screen illuminated my face in the dim bathroom light. Is she gone yet? Kylie had asked. I unlocked the door. I didn't wipe the tears from my face. I didn't fix my hair. I walked out into the reception hall, gripping the broken phone so hard the glass shards bit into my palm. Mom was standing there, hand on her hip, looking annoyed. Kylie was behind her, scrolling on her own phone, looking bored. Finally, Kylie huffed, not even looking up. Can we go? This dress is itchy. I walked past them. I didn't say a word. I just kept walking, past the guests, past the flowers, past the coffin that held the man who had called me a donkey. Meredith? Mom called out, her voice rising in confusion. Meredith, where are you going? The hearse is leaving. I stopped at the exit. I turned around slowly. I lifted the hand holding the phone, letting them see the device. Kylie looked up. Her eyes locked onto the phone. For a second, just a split second, her boredom vanished, replaced by a flash of pure, unadulterated terror. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. And then I turned and walked out into the blinding sunlight. Before I tell you what I did next, you need to understand how I got here. You need to understand why Richard called me an idiot and why he was so confident I would sign my life away. I was the eldest. In my family, that didn't just mean I was born first, it meant I was the designated sacrifice. My father left when I was 12 and Kylie was just a newborn. He walked out the door for a pack of cigarettes and never came back, leaving my mother, Patricia, bitter and helpless. From that day on, I became the second parent. I was the one who learned to cook because Mom was too depressed. I was the one who got a job at the library at 16 to pay for Kylie's dance lessons because Mom said, Kylie has a gift, Meredith. We can't let her light dim just because we're struggling. I had a gift, too. I was a landscape architect prodigy. I saw the world in patterns of bloom and structure. I got a full scholarship to study in France when I was 18. It was my ticket out. It was my dream. But the week before I was supposed to leave, Mom fell ill. A mysterious condition that required constant care. How can you leave us? She had wept, clutching my hand. How can you leave your baby sister? Who will help me raise her? So, I stayed. I gave up the scholarship. I went to a local community college and worked 2 jobs. Mom's illness miraculously cleared up 6 months later, right around the time my college fund was fully drained to pay for household bills and Kylie's braces. Then I met Richard. He was charming, ambitious, and a real estate developer with big dreams and empty pockets. He told me I was brilliant. He told me we were a team. You design the gardens, Meredith, he had said on our second date, his eyes shining. I'll build the houses. We'll build an empire together. And we did. Or rather, I built it, and he put his name on it. For 15 years, I worked in the shadows. I designed award-winning landscapes for his luxury properties. I stayed up until 3 a.m. drafting blueprints while he slept. When clients praised the work, Richard would smile and say, "I have a great vision," while I stood silently beside him, holding his briefcase. I thought that was love. I thought marriage meant being a unit where credit didn't matter. Kylie, on the other hand, never worked a day in her life. She was the fun aunt, the spirited sister. She dropped out of 3 different colleges, all paid for by Richard and me. Mom always defended her. "Kylie is finding herself," Mom would say. "You're so hard on her, Meredith. You're jealous because she knows how to enjoy life and you're always so serious." Jealous? I was exhausted. 3 years ago, Richard came home with a new investment idea. "It's a farm," he told me over dinner, cutting into the steak I had cooked. "Up north. Maple Creek. It's a complete dump. Former industrial site. The soil is practically radioactive. Why would we buy that?" I asked, concerned. "Tax write-off," he explained smoothly. "We buy it cheap, declare a loss, and it lowers our tax bracket. Plus, maybe in 20 years, we can clean it up." But Meredith, listened to me closely. He had put down his fork and grabbed my hand, looking me deep in the eyes with that intensity one mistook for protection. "You can never go there. It's dangerous. The fumes, the chemical runoff, with your asthma, it could kill you. Promise me you'll stay away. I'll handle the inspections. I don't want you getting sick." I promised. I was touched that he cared so much about my health. "It's just an ugly patch of dirt," he assured me. A forbidden zone. Since then, Richard went to the forbidden farm every other weekend. "Supervising the cleanup crew," he'd say, packing a bag. "It's a headache, honey, but I'm doing it for our future." Sometimes, Kylie would ask him for a ride. "I'm going up that way to visit friends," she'd say. I never questioned it. Why would I? He was my husband. She was my sister. I thought back to the text message on the cracked screen. "I can't wait to move into our farm." He hadn't been cleaning up toxic waste. He had been building a life. A life with her. And the worst part? The money. I remembered the times Richard told me business was tight. The times he asked me to cut back on groceries. The times he told me we couldn't afford a vacation this year. "I'm pouring everything back into the company," he'd say, looking stressed. "Trust me, Meredith. It'll pay off." I had trusted him. I wore clothes from 5 years ago. I drove a 10-year-old sedan. I clipped coupons. Meanwhile, Kylie showed up to Sunday dinners with new designer handbags, claiming they were knockoffs or gifts from mysterious boyfriends I never met. "You look tired, Meredith," Mom would say at those dinners, looking at my gray roots. "Look at Kylie. She glows. You should ask her for beauty tips." I squeezed the steering wheel of my car. I was parked a few blocks away from the funeral home, the engine idling. The AC was blasting, but I was sweating. My entire life had been a lie. My sacrifice was their punchline. I wasn't the beloved wife and sister. I was the bank. I was the mule. I was the donkey. I looked at the passenger seat. The plastic bag with the phone sat there. Next to it was a large manila envelope the lawyer had given me along with the phone. He had said it contained pertinent financial documents regarding the estate. I hadn't opened it yet. I had been too focused on the phone. I reached over and grabbed the envelope. My hands were shaking so bad I tore the paper. I pulled out the first document. It was a bank statement. Account balance, $42.18. I blinked. That couldn't be right. We had savings. We had a retirement fund. We had the emergency account. I pulled out the next paper. It was a foreclosure notice on our current house. Final warning, it read in bold red letters. 6 months past due. I couldn't breathe. The air in the car felt thin. Richard hadn't just cheated on me. He had spent everything. Every dime I had saved. Every penny of equity in our home. I dug deeper into the envelope. Where did the money go? And then I saw the receipts. Construction invoices. Interior design bills. Custom furniture orders. Imported marble. Thousands and thousands of dollars, all billed to a Phoenix Holdings and shipped to an address in the countryside. 1200 Maple Creek Road. The Forbidden Farm. The toxic dump wasn't a dump. It was a money pit where he had buried my future. I looked up at the road. The sun was setting, casting long, bloody shadows across the pavement. Mom and Kylie were probably calling my phone right now, wondering why I hadn't driven them home, wondering where their chauffeur was. I put the car in gear. I wasn't going home. I didn't have a home anymore, the bank owned it. I punched the address into the GPS 1200 Maple Creek Road. It was a 4-hour drive. You can never go there, Richard had said. It could kill you. Maybe, I whispered to the empty car. Or maybe I'm going to kill what you built. I hit the gas. Before I hit the highway, I made one stop. I needed to see Mr. Steinberg. I barged into his office without an appointment, my black funeral dress rumpled, my eyes wild. The receptionist tried to stop me, but the look on my face must have terrified her because she backed down. Mrs. Bowman? Steinberg looked up from his desk, surprised. The funeral, is it over already? Where is the money, Arthur? I slammed the foreclosure notice onto his mahogany desk. Where is 20 years of my life? Steinberg sighed. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He looked like a man who had been dreading this conversation. Richard was creative with his accounting, Steinberg said carefully. He liquidated the retirement accounts last year. He forged her signature on the refinance documents for the house. I only found out when I started probating the will this morning. Forged? I choked out a laugh. He stole it. Technically, yes. But since he is deceased, you can't prosecute him. The debts, however, they are now yours. The house is underwater, Meredith. The bank will take it within 30 days. I sank into the leather chair opposite him. So I have nothing? I'm 42 years old and I'm destitute? Not exactly nothing, Steinberg said. He opened a drawer and pulled out a heavy brass key with a tag that read Maple Creek. You have the farm. I stared at the key. The toxic waste dump? The money pit? It's not a waste dump, Meredith, Steinberg said, his voice lowering. I don't know what he told you, but the appraisal came in yesterday. The property value alone is significant. But the debt on it is also massive. He leveraged everything to build, whatever he built out there. He built a mansion for my sister, I said flatly. Steinberg's eyebrows shot up. I see. That explains the second beneficiary. My head snapped up. What? Richard drafted a new will 2 weeks ago, Steinberg said. He intended to leave the farm to a Kylie Miller. But, and this is the important part, he never signed it. He died before he could execute the document. He had an appointment with me for next Monday. A chill ran down my spine. He was going to leave me with the debt and give her the asset. He was going to leave me with nothing but the foreclosure. So who owns it? I asked, my voice trembling. You do, Steinberg said firmly. You are the sole heir to the estate, which includes the debts, yes, but also the Maple Creek property. And there's something else. He slid a file folder across the desk. Richard set up a shell company called Phoenix Holdings to purchase the farm. He wanted to hide it from creditors, and likely from you. But in his arrogance, or perhaps just laziness, he listed you as the primary officer of Phoenix Holdings when he incorporated it 10 years ago for a different project. He never updated the officers. I opened the file. There was my name. Meredith Bowman. President. Legally, Steinberg said, a small, grim smile touching his lips, that farm has been yours the entire time. He was just playing house in it. My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. It's your mother, isn't it? Steinberg asked. She wants the life insurance check, I said. She thinks there's $1 million policy. There was, Steinberg said. Richard cashed it out 6 months ago. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. Go to the farm, Meredith, Steinberg said softly. Assess the asset. See what we can sell. We need to liquidate everything to pay off the bank, or you're looking at bankruptcy. I grabbed the brass key. It felt cold and heavy in my hand. Thank you, Arthur, I said. As I walked back to my car, my phone rang again. It was Kylie this time. I answered. Where the hell are you? She screamed. Mom is having a panic attack. We are standing on the curb like hobos. Richard would never treat us like this. Richard is dead, Kylie, I said calmly. I know that. And you're supposed to take care of us. That's your job. Now come pick us up and bring the checkbook. I need to order food for the wake at the house. There is no checkbook, I said. And there is no wake. What are you talking about? I'm going for a drive, I said. I'm going to check on my investments. What investments? Her voice faltered. The farm, I said. Silence. Dead silence on the other end of the line. Then, panic. You can't go there. Richard said it's dangerous. The fumes. Meredith, don't be stupid. I'm done being stupid, Kylie. I'm going to see what my husband built for us. No. Wait. Meredith. I hung up. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I turned off the phone. I started the engine. The gas tank was full. The road was open. I had nothing left to lose. No husband. No money. No home. Just a key and a lie. I drove north, leaving the city lights behind. As the miles ticked by, the grief in my chest began to harden into something else. It felt like armor. I was going to Maple Creek. And I was going to burn their paradise to the ground. The drive took 4 hours, winding through back roads that turned from asphalt to gravel as I got closer to the destination. It was pitch black by the time the GPS arrived. I had expected a chain-link fence. I had expected warning signs with skulls and crossbones. I had expected a barren wasteland of cracked earth and industrial decay. What I found was a gate that looked like it belonged to a European palace. Immense wrought iron gates towered over my car, illuminated by solar-powered lanterns that cast a soft, golden glow. Intricate patterns of vines and leaves were twisted into the metal. And there, right in the center, welded in gold lettering, were the initials, R&K Manor. I stepped out of the car. The night air didn't smell like chemicals or toxic waste. It smelled of jasmine, honeysuckle, and rich, damp earth. I walked up to the gate. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so pure it felt like clarity. I looked through the bars. A long, winding driveway paved with cobblestones, expensive cobblestones, led up a gentle hill. And flanking the driveway? My gardens. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. 2 years ago, I had lost my sketchpad. It was a leather-bound book where I kept my dream designs, the projects I drew just for myself, the ones that were too expensive, too elaborate for clients. I had looked everywhere for it. Richard had helped me look, shrugging and saying, "You probably left it at a coffee shop, honey. You're so forgetful lately." They were here. All of them. To the left, the moonlight garden I had designed, with white hydrangeas and silver dusty miller that glowed in the dark. To the right, the tiered rose garden with the specific pattern of red and white climbers I had sketched on a napkin during our anniversary dinner 3 years ago. He hadn't just stolen my money. He had stolen my mind. He had taken the most intimate expressions of my creativity, my art, and he had built them for her. "You monster," I whispered into the night. I took the brass key Steinberg had given me. There was a keypad on the gate, but also a manual keyhole. I shoved the key in. It turned with a smooth, well-oiled click. The heavy gates swung open silently. I got back in my car and drove up the cobblestone path. My tires crunched softly. I passed a fountain, a 3-tiered marble masterpiece that I had doodled in the margins of a grocery list. At the top of the hill stood the house. It wasn't a farmhouse. It was a mansion. A modern, sprawling estate with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, stone accents, and a wraparound porch that looked out over the valley. It looked like something out of a magazine. My magazines. The ones Richard told me to stop buying because they were clutter. I parked the car right in front of the massive oak double doors. I sat there for a moment, the engine ticking as it cooled. I looked at the dark windows. It looked peaceful. Silent. But I knew it wasn't empty. Not really. It was full of ghosts. The ghost of the marriage I thought I had. The ghost of the sister I thought loved me. I grabbed the heavy flashlight from my glove box. I didn't know if the electricity was on, or if there were alarms. I didn't care. I walked up the stone steps. There was a welcome mat. It didn't say welcome. It said, "The Millers." Miller was Kylie's middle name. She had started using it as a surname on social media a few years ago because she said Bowman, my maiden name, which she kept, sounded too common. The Millers. Like they were a married couple. Like I didn't exist. I unlocked the front door. The air inside was cool and smelled of lavender and expensive leather. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating a grand foyer with a crystal chandelier. To my left, a living room with a white sectional sofa that looked like it had never been sat on. A massive stone fireplace dominated the wall. And above the fireplace? I walked closer, my heart pounding in my ears like a war drum. It was a portrait. A massive, oil-painted portrait in a gilded frame. It was Richard and Kylie. They were dressed in medieval nobility costumes, Richard as a king, Kylie as a queen. They looked ridiculous, pompous, and utterly in love. But it was the plaque at the bottom of the frame that made me dry heave. King Richard and his Queen. Established 2020. 5 years ago. They had been doing this for 5 years. I swung the flashlight beam around the room. On the mantel, framed photos. Richard and Kylie in Paris, he told me he was at a conference in Ohio. Richard and Kylie skiing in Aspen, he told me he was visiting a sick aunt. Richard and Kylie holding a puppy. A puppy. I had begged for a dog for 10 years. Richard said he was allergic. Liar, I screamed. The sound echoed in the empty house, bouncing off the high ceilings. Liar! I swept my arm across the mantel. The frames crashed to the floor, glass shattering. I kicked a photo of Kylie's smiling face, sending it skittering under the sofa. I was panting, tears streaming down my face. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was dangerous. I moved deeper into the house. I needed to see it all. I needed to see every inch of my betrayal. I moved through the house like an intruder in my own life. Every room was a fresh slap in the face. The kitchen was a chef's dream: wolf range, sub-zero fridge, marble countertops, the exact kitchen I had pinned on my someday Pinterest board. Richard had mocked that board. Dreaming is free, Meredith, he'd laughed. Apparently, building it for Kylie cost about $150,000. I walked up the floating staircase to the second floor. The master bedroom was at the end of the hall. The double doors were ajar. I pushed them open. The room was massive. A king-sized bed with a velvet headboard dominated the space. But it was the walk-in closet that drew me in. It was the size of my entire apartment living room. I flipped the light switch on the wall. The closet illuminated like a boutique. Rows and rows of designer clothes. Gucci, Prada, Chanel. Handbags sat on lighted shelves like trophies. Shoes, hundreds of pairs, lined the walls. I walked over to a rack of dresses. I recognized one. It was a shimmering emerald green gown. Kylie had worn it to a gala last year. She told me she found it at a thrift store for $20. I checked the tag. Versace. $4,500. I pulled out another one. A red silk blouse. I remembered this one. I had admired it in a shop window 3 years ago. Richard had been with me. "It's too flashy for you, Meredith," he had said. "It's not your style." Here it was. In Kylie's size. My hands shook as I touched the fabrics. This was my retirement fund. This was my home equity. This was the money for my mother's medical bills. I turned away, nauseous. In the corner of the bedroom, there was a vanity table cluttered with makeup and jewelry. I walked over. Sitting right in the center, on a velvet cushion, was a diamond necklace. I stopped breathing. It was my grandmother's necklace. It had disappeared 2 Christmases ago. I had been devastated. I thought a maid had stolen it. I had fired the cleaning lady, a nice woman named Rosa with 3 kids. I had cried for weeks. Kylie had held my hand and said, "It's just a thing, Meredith. Don't let material possessions own you." Here it was. Around the neck of a porcelain bust on her vanity. I grabbed the necklace, clutching it so hard the metal cut into my skin. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. Then I saw it. In the corner of the room, on a dress form, was a rag. It was gray and tattered, used clearly to wipe paintbrushes or clean shoes. I walked closer. I recognized the lace pattern. It was my wedding dress. I had kept it in a preserved box in our attic. I hadn't checked on it in years. Kylie had taken it out. She had cut it up. She had used the bodice to wipe makeup off her face. There were streaks of foundation and mascara on the white satin. She didn't just want his money. She wanted to erase me. She wanted to defile everything that made me his wife. I fell to my knees in front of the ruined dress. A primal sound ripped from my throat, a mixture of a sob and a growl. Suddenly, a noise from downstairs froze me. Click-clack. The sound of a heavy door opening. Then, heavy footsteps on the hardwood floor. "Who's there?" a rough male voice boomed. "I see your car." "I'm armed." I scrambled to my feet. I wiped my face. I wasn't going to let anyone see me broken. Not here. Not now. I grabbed the heavy brass lamp from the bedside table. I ripped the cord from the wall. "Come out," the voice yelled. "I'm calling the sheriff." I walked out of the bedroom and to the top of the stairs. Standing in the foyer, pointing a double-barreled shotgun up at me, was an older man. He wore muddy work boots and a flannel shirt. He looked like he had been carved out of granite. "Don't shoot," I said, my voice steady, surprising even myself. The man squinted. He lowered the gun slightly. "You ain't Kylie. And you ain't Richard." "No," I said, descending the stairs slowly, the lamp still in my hand. "I'm Meredith." The man's eyes widened. "Meredith? The wife?" "The wife," I confirmed. He lowered the gun completely. He looked at me with a mixture of confusion and pity. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "He said you were locked up. Said you were crazy. Said you tried to burn down your last house." "He lied," I said, reaching the bottom step. "About everything." The man leaned the gun against the wall. He took off his cap and scratched his bald head. "I'm Hank. I manage the grounds. Or I did. Until the checks stopped coming 3 months ago." "3 months?" I asked. "Yeah. Richard said he was having cash flow issues because of his crazy wife's legal bills." Hank snorted. "I guess that was a lie too." "It was," I said. "Richard is dead, Hank." Hank didn't look sad. He didn't look surprised. He just nodded. "Car crash?" I blinked. "How did you know?" "Because he drove like a maniac when he was drunk," Hank said. "And he was drunk every time he left here. Celebrating his empire. Hank looked around the opulent foyer. "So, it's yours now?" "It is," I said. "Or at least, the dead is mine." Hank chuckled darkly. "Well, Mrs. Bowman, if you think the house is something, wait until you see the basement. That's where the real skeletons are." "Show me," I said. Hank picked up his shotgun. "Follow me. You might want a stiff drink first." I followed Hank through a door in the kitchen that I had assumed was a pantry. Instead, it led to a reinforced steel door with a keypad. "Richard thought he was James Bond," Hank muttered, punching in a code. 0-0-0-0, genius, that guy. The door hissed open, revealing a flight of concrete stairs. "He called this the war room," Hank said, leading the way down. "He didn't let Kylie down here. Said women mess up his system. But I had to come down to fix the dehumidifier last month." We reached the bottom. Hank flipped a switch. Fluorescent lights flickered on, illuminating a room that looked like a conspiracy theorist's den. There were white boards covering every wall. Filing cabinets lined the perimeter. A massive desk sat in the center, covered in stacks of paper. But it was the white boards that drew my eye. They were covered in timelines. Charts. Diagrams. I walked closer to the main board. At the top, in red marker, was written, "Project Freedom." Underneath were columns. Phase 1, liquidation. Done. Phase 2, the farm build. Done. Phase 3, the transfer. In progress. Phase 4, the divorce. My hand hovered over Phase 4. There were bullet points. Claim mental instability, Meredith. Plant evidence of infidelity, fake emails created. Trigger foreclosure on main house to ruin her credit score. Offer $10,000 settlement to make her go away. I felt sick. It wasn't just greed. It was calculated cruelty. He wanted to destroy my reputation, my credit, and my sanity so that when he left me, no one would believe a word I said. He hated you, Hank said softly from behind me. I don't know why. You look like a decent lady. But the way he talked about you, like you were a tick he couldn't pull off. I supported him for 20 years, I whispered. I made him who he was. That's probably why, Hank said wisely. Small men hate the women who make them feel big. I moved to the desk. There was a leather-bound journal open on the blotter. I read the last entry, dated 4 days ago. Kylie is getting annoying. She wants her name on the deed now. I told her to wait until the idiot signs the Western lot release. Once I have full rights to the mineral deposits, I'll transfer the deed to the shell company, divorce Meredith, and then, maybe I'll dump Kylie too. She's getting expensive. Maybe I'll find a younger model for the new manor. I gasped. He was going to betray Kylie too. Hank, I said, turning around. What does he mean by mineral deposits? What Western lot? Hank's face changed. A sly grin spread across his weathered features. Ah, he said. That's the funny part. The part Richard thought he was so smart about, but he was actually too cheap to understand. Hank walked over to a filing cabinet labeled Geological Surveys. He pulled out a thick roll of maps and spread them on the desk. See this? Hank pointed to the jagged, rocky area on the west side of the property. The part Richard had told me was the most toxic. That's shale, Hank said. About 2 years ago, some government surveyors came through. Richard paid them off to keep the report quiet. He thought if he kept it quiet, he wouldn't have to pay higher property taxes on the potential value. Value? I asked. Hank tapped the map. Mrs. Bowman, you're standing on top of one of the largest untapped natural gas and oil shale reserves in the county. This worthless farm? It's sitting on a gold mine. Literally. My head spun. Does Kylie know? She knows there's money, Hank said. But she thinks it's just land value. She doesn't know about the oil. Richard didn't tell her. He wanted to keep that for himself. I looked at the map. I looked at the diary. Richard had hidden the asset to keep it from me. He had hidden the value to keep it from the government and Kylie. But because he was dead, and because he had been too lazy to change the corporate officers of Phoenix Holdings. I own it, I whispered. I own the oil. Yes, ma'am, Hank said. And if my math is right, that foreclosure notice on your house? You could pay that off with what's under the dirt in the backyard. Just then, the security monitor on the wall beeped. We both looked up at the screen. A black SUV had just pulled up to the main gate. I recognized the license plate. It was my mother's car. Kylie jumped out of the passenger seat. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, looking furious. She punched the code into the keypad. The gate began to open. They have the code, I said. Hank picked up his shotgun again. He cracked it open to check the shells, then snapped it shut. You want me to run him off? He asked. I watched Kylie storming up the driveway on the screen, my mother trailing behind her like a nervous puppy. I looked at the diary where Richard called me an idiot. I looked at the map that promised millions. No, I said, a cold calm settling over me. Let them in. I turned to Hank. Put the gun away, Hank. I don't need bullets to destroy them. I picked up the diary. I have this. Turn off the lights, I told Hank. We'll watch from here. The war room had a bank of monitors showing every angle of the house. Richard's paranoia was now my greatest weapon. Hank killed the overhead fluorescents. We stood in the blue glow of the screens, watching the intruders. Kylie didn't knock. She used a key, her own key, and burst into the foyer. Mom followed, looking around nervously, clutching her purse. Meredith! Kylie screamed, her voice shrill and distorted through the tiny speakers. I see your piece of junk car outside. I know you're here. Come out! She stomped into the living room. She saw the smashed picture frames on the floor. Oh my God! Kylie shrieked. She fell to her knees, picking up the ruined portrait of her and Richard as king and queen. She broke it. Mom, look. She's crazy. She destroyed our art. Mom shook her head, looking distressed. Oh dear. This is bad. This is violent. We need to be careful, Kylie. If she's having an episode. I don't care if she's having an episode. Kylie yelled, standing up. This is my house. Richard gave it to me. She marched towards the kitchen. Down in the bunker, Hank leaned against the desk, arms crossed. She's got a set of lungs on her. You have no idea, I murmured. Where is she? Kylie was throwing open pantry doors. Meredith! Come out and sign the papers. I know you're hiding. You're probably stealing my silverware. Stealing her silverware. The silverware I paid for. What's the plan, boss? Hank asked. I looked at the screens. I saw them moving toward the staircase. They were going to the master bedroom. They were going to see the dress. We wait, I said. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they have the upper hand. Then, I go up. On the screen, Kylie kicked open the master bedroom door. She stopped. She saw the wedding dress rag on the floor where I had dropped it. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look ashamed. She kicked the dress aside. Ugh, she was in here, Kylie groaned. She ran to the closet. She checked her clothes. Okay, good. She didn't touch the Gucci. If she ruined my silk, I'd sue her. Mom sat on the edge of the bed my husband shared with my sister. Kylie, honey, maybe we should call the police. If she's here legally. She's not here legally. Kylie snapped. Richard promised me. He said he fixed the will. This is my property. But did he sign it? Mom asked softly. You know how Richard was with paperwork. Kylie froze. She turned to Mom, eyes wide. He said he did. He said it was done. But did you see it? Shut up, Mom. Whose side are you on? Yours, baby, always yours. We need to be practical. If Meredith is the heir. She's not. Kylie screamed. She's a nobody. She's a placeholder. Richard hated her. I had heard enough. I turned to Hank. Do you have a printer down here? Yep. Behind the desk. I need you to print something for me, I said. I pulled up a document on Richard's computer. It was the Project Freedom file. Specifically, the page detailing the plan to leave Kylie with nothing after the divorce. Print this, I said. And Hank? When I signal you, cut the power. Hank grinned. With pleasure. I took the printed page. I took the diary. I took the geological survey map. I'm going up, I said. I walked up the concrete stairs. I punched in the code. The door hissed open. I walked through the pantry and into the kitchen. I could hear them upstairs, arguing. I walked to the foyer. I stood right in the center, under the chandelier. Kylie! I called out. My voice was calm, loud, and authoritative. The arguing upstairs stopped. Footsteps thundered down the hall. Kylie appeared at the top of the stairs, face red, hair messy. Mom was right behind her. "Get out!" Kylie screamed, pointing a manicured finger at me. "Get out of my house!" "It's not your house," I said, holding up the brass key. "It's mine. Richard gave it to me." "Richard is dead," I said. "And he didn't sign the will, Kylie." Mr. Steinberg confirmed it. Kylie turned pale. She gripped the banister. "You're lying." "I'm not," I said. "I'm the sole beneficiary. Which means I own the house. I own the cars. I own the clothes in that closet. And I own the debt." "Debt?" Mom asked, coming down a few steps. "What debt?" "Richard was broke, Mom," I said. "He spent everything on this place. He mortgaged our home. He stole my savings. He was drowning." Kylie laughed. It was a forced, brittle sound. "You're lying. He was rich. He was an emperor. He was a con artist," I said. "And you were his mark." I started walking up the stairs. They backed away. "I'm calling the police," Kylie yelled, fumbling for her phone. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them you're trespassing on my property. Tell them you've been squatting here for 3 years." I reached the top of the stairs. I looked my sister in the eye. She looked smaller now. Less like a queen, more like a scared child. "But before you call," I said, holding out the piece of paper Hank had printed. "You might want to read this." "What is it?" she snapped. "It's Richard's diary entry from last week," I lied. "Well, his plan, actually." Kylie snatched the paper. She read it. I watched her eyes scan the lines. "Dump Kylie, she's getting expensive, find a younger model." Her hands started to shake. This is fake. You wrote this." "It's dated and time-stamped on his secure server downstairs," I said. "Check the metadata if you want." "He loved me," Kylie shrieked, crumpling the paper. "He loved me. We were soulmates." "He loved himself," I said. "You were just a shiny object. And he was about to trade you in." "No!" Kylie screamed. She lunged at me. Mom grabbed her arm. "Kylie! Stop! She's lying. She's jealous. She's a barren, boring old hag and she can't stand that he wanted me." Kylie broke free from Mom and raised her hand to slap me. "Now, Hank!" I yelled. The house plunged into darkness. Kylie screamed, a high, terrified sound that echoed in the pitch-black hallway. "What did you do?" Mom wailed. "Meredith! Turn the lights on." I didn't do anything, my voice came out of the dark, calm and detached. "The power company probably cut it. Richard didn't pay the bills, remember?" It was a lie, of course. Hank had just thrown the main breaker. But the effect was immediate. The luxury, the glamour, the power, it all vanished when the lights went out. Now, it was just a dark, cold house in the middle of nowhere. "I can't see." Kylie was hyperventilating. "I'm scared of the dark. You know I'm scared of the dark." I clicked on my heavy-duty flashlight. I didn't shine it on the floor. I shone it directly into Kylie's face. She flinched, blindingly illuminated like a deer in headlights. "Sit down," I ordered. "Don't tell me what to." I said sit down. I roared. The anger I had been suppressing finally broke through. It wasn't hysterical anger. It was commanding. It was the voice of the person who paid the bills, who solved the problems, who held the world together while they played. Kylie sat on the top step, stunned. Mom sat next to her, clutching Kylie's hand. I stood over them, the flashlight beam keeping them pinned. You want to talk about reality? I said. Let's talk about reality. The bank is coming for this house in 30 days. The bank is coming for my house in 20. We are all broke. Because of him. And because of you. I didn't know, Mom sobbed. He always seemed so successful. You didn't want to know. I snapped at her. As long as he bought you nice gifts and paid for Kylie's lifestyle, you didn't care where the money came from. You watched him humiliate me for years and you said nothing. I just wanted peace, Mom whispered. You wanted a free ride, I corrected. And you, I turned the beam on Kylie. She was crying now, ruining her mascara. You stole my husband. You stole my jewelry. You cut up my wedding dress. You lived in a house built on my stolen money. I thought he was going to leave you, Kylie whimpered. He said you were practically roommates. He said you didn't love him. And that makes it okay? I asked. That makes it okay to call me an idiot? To plot to make me homeless? Here is the situation, I said, pulling the geological map from under my arm. I kept the light on their faces, so they couldn't see the map clearly, just the fact that I held a document. I am the sole owner of Phoenix Holdings. This farm is in the company name. I am the president. You are trespassing. We're family. Mom cried. You wouldn't kick us out. Watch me, I said. But I have a proposal. Kylie looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. What? I can't pay the debts right now, I said. The bank is going to foreclose. But I know a way to stall them. I know a way to maybe save something. How? There is a buyer, I lied. Someone Richard was talking to. Someone who wants the land for development. But they need signatures. They need a united front. If you contest the will, if you drag this out in probate court, the bank takes everything. We all get zero. I want my share. Kylie said automatically. There is no share. I yelled. It is negative. It is debt. But if I sell it quickly, I might be able to pay off the debts and walk away with a little cash. How much? Kylie asked greedily. Maybe 50,000, I said. Enough for you to get an apartment. Enough for Mom. 50,000? Kylie scoffed. That's it? This house is worth millions. Not with the liens on it, I said. Take it or leave it. If you contest the will, I will let the bank take it all. I will declare bankruptcy and I will watch you starve. I have a degree. I can get a job. Can you? Kylie looked at Mom. Mom looked at Kylie. They were calculating. They were realizing that without Richard, they were helpless. Fine, Kylie spat. Sell it. Give me the money. But I'm taking my clothes. No, I said. Everything in the house stays. It's part of the asset list. You leave with what you came with. You can't do that. I can. And I will. Or I call the sheriff and show him the text messages where you plotted to defraud a spouse. That's a felony, Kylie. Conspiracy. It probably wasn't, but Kylie didn't know the law. She only knew what she saw on TV. She shrank back. Fine. Whatever. Just get me out of here. It's dark and it smells like old wood. Good, I said. Get out. Now? Mom asked. It's late. Now, I said. Hank will escort you to the gate. Hank? Kylie asked. From the darkness at the bottom of the stairs, Hank racked his shotgun. Click-clack. Kylie shrieked and scrambled up. She grabbed Mom's hand and they ran down the stairs, past me, and out the front door. I watched them go. I listened to their car engine start and fade away down the driveway. Only when they were gone did I lower the flashlight. Hank flipped the breaker back on. The chandelier flooded the space with light again. He walked up the stairs, grinning. You're a scary lady, Mrs. Bowman. Conspiracy? Nice touch. I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline. They think I'm selling it for scraps, I said, looking at the geological map in my hand. They think it's worth $50,000. Hank looked at the map. And what is it really worth? According to this, I traced the line of the oil deposit. Conservative estimate? 12 million. Hank whistled low. So, you didn't tell them about the oil? No, I said, a smile spreading across my face. A real smile this time. Why would I? They didn't want the toxic land. They wanted the house. I'm going to bulldoze this house. And the oil? The oil, I said, is my severance package. I walked over to the portrait of King Richard and his queen. I pulled it off the wall and smashed it over the banister. Hank, I said. Do you know any good demolition guys? Hank laughed. I know a few. Good. Because we have work to do. But first. I pulled out my phone. I turned it on. I dialed the number for Arthur Steinberg. Arthur, I said when he answered, sounding sleepy. Don't sell the farm. I found something better. Meredith? It's midnight. What did you find? I found leverage, I said. And I'm going to need a very, very good contract lawyer. I'm going into the oil business. The game had just changed. And for the first time in my life, I was holding all the cards. But I knew Kylie wouldn't give up that easily. She would be back. And when she found out about the oil, that's when the real war would begin. Bring it on, I whispered. The silence that fell over the house after Kylie and Mom scrambled out the door was heavy, but for the first time in my life, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like victory. Hank locked the front door, properly this time, engaging the deadbolt, and turned to me with a look of gritty admiration. You realize you just kicked a hornet's nest, Mrs. Bowman, he said, wiping his hands on his flannel shirt. Kylie isn't the type to go quietly. She's going to come back, and she's going to bring lawyers. Or gasoline. Let her come, I said, walking back into the living room. I picked up the shattered frame of the king and queen portrait I had smashed earlier. I need her to come back. I need her to sign the release forms for the land rights. If she contests the will before she signs away her claim to the estate's debts, the bank freezes everything. I need her to think she's winning a small battle so I can win the war. I spent that night in the house my husband built for my sister. I refused to sleep in the master bedroom. Instead, I dragged a duvet onto the sofa in the living room. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. I thought about the last 10 years. The missed birthdays Richard claimed he was working. The way Mom would always accidentally on purpose forget to invite me to brunch with Kylie because they were discussing young people things. The way I had felt like a ghost in my own family. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a haunting. The next morning, the sun rose over the western hills, the hills sitting on top of $12 million of crude oil. I stood on the porch with a cup of coffee Hank had brewed, watching the mist roll off the land. My phone buzzed. It was Steinberg. Meredith, his voice was crisp, awake. I've been up all night reviewing the files you sent over from Richard's server. You were right. Phoenix Holdings is ironclad. You are the sole officer. But we have a problem. My stomach tightened. What problem? Kylie has hired a lawyer. A man named Darrow. He's a shark. He just filed an emergency injunction to freeze the estate assets, claiming Richard was under undue influence when he didn't sign the new will. They are arguing that his intent was clear and that you are obstructing his dying wish. Let them argue, I said. Did you draft the settlement agreement I asked for? I did, Steinberg said, sounding hesitant. But Meredith, are you sure? You're offering them a $50,000 payout from your own personal line of credit, which you don't technically have yet, to get them to waive all future claims to the property. If they find out about the oil before they sign. They won't, I said. They think it's a toxic dump, remember? They think I'm doing them a favor by taking on the debt. It's risky. It's the only way. Set the meeting. Tomorrow. Here at the farm. I want them to see me on their turf one last time. I hung up and went to find Hank. He was in the garage, polishing the hood of a vintage Mustang Richard had apparently bought with our refinance money. Hank, I said. I need you to make this place look distressed. Hank raised an eyebrow. Distressed? I want it to look like the bank is already here, I explained. I want to sell the narrative that I am drowning. Put past due notices on the counters. Pack up some of the valuables in boxes like we're liquidating. Make it look like a fire sale. Hank grinned, a slow, toothy smile. I can pull the fuse on the pool pump so it turns green. I can park the tractor on the lawn. Perfect, I said. Do it. I spent the rest of the day in the war room, digging through every scrap of paper Richard had left. I needed ammunition. Not just about the money, but about the betrayal. I needed to know exactly how deep the rot went. And I found it. Tucked in the back of a filing cabinet, inside a folder labeled Miscellaneous Expenses, I found a series of bank transfers from 5 years ago. Recipient, Patricia Bowman. Memo, allowance. $2,000 a month. Every month. For 5 years. My hands shook as I held the statements. Richard hadn't just been supporting Kylie. He had been paying my mother off. He had been buying her silence. All those times Mom told me, Richard is a good man, don't nag him about money, she was protecting her paycheck. All those times she told me to be more like Kylie, she was grooming me to be the submissive cash cow while she leeches off the man who was stealing from me. I felt a tear slide down my cheek, hot and angry. I wiped it away furiously. I wasn't just losing a husband and a sister. I was losing my mother. Or rather, I was realizing I never really had one. I took a photo of the bank statement. I added it to my digital folder labeled The Reveal. Then, my phone rang again. It was Kylie. I let it ring 3 times before answering. I pitched my voice to sound tired, broken. Hello? Meredith, Kylie's voice was sickly sweet, a total pivot from the screaming banshee of last night. Look, Mom and I have been thinking. We don't want to fight. We're family. I don't want to fight either, Kylie, I lied. I'm so tired. The bank called again this morning. They're threatening to seize my car. Oh, that's terrible, Kylie said, sounding absolutely delighted. Well, listen. We talked to our lawyer. If you can guarantee that $50,000 cash, today, we might be willing to sign the waiver. We just want to help you move on. Tomorrow, I said. I can't get the cash until tomorrow. Come to the farm at noon. Bring your lawyer. We'll sign everything. Fine, Kylie snapped, her sweetness slipping. but have the check ready. I have bills to pay. Don't we all? I whispered. I hung up. I looked around the war room. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for the rats to walk in. The morning of the meeting, the sky was a bruised purple, heavy with impending rain. It set the perfect mood for what I was about to stage. Hank had outdone himself. The pristine R&K manor now looked like a ship taking on water. He had drained half the pool, leaving a green sludge at the bottom. He had piled garbage bags near the garage. Inside, we had draped white sheets over the furniture, giving the house a ghostly, abandoned feel. I dressed carefully. I didn't wear my power suit. I wore an old gray cardigan, jeans that were slightly too loose, and no makeup. I pulled my hair back into a messy bun. I wanted to look like a woman defeated. I wanted them to smell blood. At 11 a.m., Steinberg arrived. He looked around the disheveled living room and raised an eyebrow. A bit theatrical, isn't it? He murmured, setting his briefcase on the dining table. They live for drama, Arthur, I said. I'm just giving them the set design they expect. You have the cashier's check? I patted my purse. $50,000. Every penny I could scrape from my personal credit cards. It's a gamble. If this oil thing isn't real, Meredith. It's real, I said. Hank showed me the test wells this morning. It's real. At noon sharp, the gate buzzer sounded. I watched on the security monitor. Kylie's car pulled up, followed by a flashy black Mercedes. That must be Darrow, Steinberg said, peering at the screen. He's expensive. She's spending money she doesn't have yet. I went to the door. I took a deep breath, slumped my shoulders, and opened it. Kylie walked in first. She was wearing a black dress that looked suspiciously like one missing from the closet upstairs, one I hadn't had a chance to lock up yet. She looked around the sheet-draped room and wrinkled her nose. God, it smells musty in here already, she sneered. You really let the place go in 2 days, didn't you? Maintenance is expensive, I said, keeping my voice low. Mom followed, avoiding my eyes. She clutched her purse tight. Behind her was Darrow, a man with a tan that was too orange and a suit that was too shiny. Mrs. Bowman, Darrow said, not offering his hand. Let's make this quick. My client is very distressed. We're in the dining room, I said. We sat around the long mahogany table. I sat at the head, Steinberg to my right. Kylie, Mom, and Darrow sat opposite us. The battle lines were drawn. So, Darrow began, opening a folder. We are here to discuss the equitable distribution of the late Mr. Bowman's assets. My client, Ms. Miller, asserts that she is the common-law wife and intended beneficiary. Stop, Steinberg interrupted gently. There is no common-law marriage in this state, Mr. Darrow. And intentions are not legal documents. We are here because Mrs. Bowman is generously offering a settlement to avoid a lengthy probate process that would drain what little value is left in the estate. I pulled the cashier's check out of my purse. I laid it on the table, face down. Kylie's eyes locked onto the paper. She licked her lips. The estate is underwater, I said, my voice trembling just enough. Richard had $5 million in debt. The bank is foreclosing on this property next week. They are foreclosing on my home in 3 days. This $50,000, it's all there is. It's from my own line of credit. $50,000 is an insult, Kylie spat. Richard promised me millions. Richard lied, Kylie. I snapped, letting a flash of real anger through. Look around. Look at the past due notices. He was a fraud. If you want the millions, you take the $5 million in debt too. Do you want that? Can you pay the mortgage on this place? It's $30,000 a month. Kylie paled. She looked at Mom. Is that true? Mom fidgeted. Richard. Richard did say business was tricky lately. I'm offering you a lifeboat, I said. You take this money, you sign the waiver relinquishing all claims to the estate, the property, and Phoenix Holdings. You walk away clean. I deal with the bankruptcy. I deal with the mess. Darrow leaned in and whispered to Kylie. I could hear snippets. Take it, debt liability, we can't fight the bank. Kylie looked at me. Her eyes were hard, calculating. I want the car too. The Mercedes convertible in the garage. The bank has a lien on it, I lied. They'll repossess it in a week. If you want to get pulled over for driving a stolen car, be my guest. Kylie huffed. Fine. Give me the check. Sign first, Steinberg said, sliding a thick document across the table. This is a comprehensive release. It states you have no claim to 1200 Maple Creek Road, Phoenix Holdings, or any assets contained therein, above or below ground. Below ground? Darrow asked, pausing. My heart stopped. Standard language, Steinberg said smoothly. Basements, foundations, septic systems. We don't want you coming back suing because a pipe burst. Darrow shrugged. Seems standard. Kylie grabbed the pen. She didn't read it. She just looked at the check waiting for her. She scribbled her signature. Kylie Miller. Mom signed as a witness. I watched the ink dry. It felt like watching a bomb timer tick down to 0. Done, Kylie said, snatching the check. She looked at the amount. $50,000. She smirked. Well, Meredith. Enjoy your bankruptcy. I'm going to Cabo. I picked up the signed document. I checked the signatures. They were valid. Steinberg nodded at me. It was done. I stood up. I straightened my back. I took a deep breath, and the slump vanished from my shoulders. The defeated widow was gone. You're not going to Cabo, Kylie, I said. My voice changed. It was deeper, stronger. The voice of the woman who owned the room. Kylie paused, halfway out of her chair. Excuse me? Sit down, I said. We're not finished. I have my money. We're done. No, I said. That was the business part of the meeting. Now we get to the family part. I picked up a remote control from the table. I pointed it at the wall where a large flat-screen TV was mounted under a sheet. I hadn't removed the sheet earlier. I pulled the sheet down with a dramatic flourish. What is this? Darrow asked, looking annoyed. My billable hours are ticking. Oh, you'll want to see this, I said. It's a home movie. I pressed play. The video from Richard's phone filled the screen. The champagne. The laughter. Is she gone yet? Kylie's voice rang out in the dining room. Kylie froze. Her face went white. The old donkey, she'll be homeless by Christmas, baby. I watched Mom's face. She stared at the screen, her mouth open. She hadn't seen this video. She knew about the affair, but seeing the cruelty? Hearing them plan to make me homeless? The video ended. The room was deadly silent. You knew, I said to Kylie. You didn't just sleep with him. You plotted with him. You wanted me on the street. It was a joke, Kylie stammered, clutching her check. We were drunk. And you, I turned to Mom. You took $2,000 a month from him. Hush money. I threw the bank statements on the table. Mom flinched as if I'd slapped her. Meredith, I needed to survive. You sold me, I said. For $2,000 a month. We're leaving, Kylie said, standing up abruptly. Come on, Mom. She's just trying to make us feel bad because she lost. Lost? I started to laugh. It was a cold, terrifying sound. Oh, Kylie. You didn't read the document you just signed, did you? I signed a release. You signed away your rights to Phoenix Holdings, I said. Do you know what Phoenix Holdings owns? This dump. Kylie yelled. This debt-ridden farmhouse. Hank. I yelled. Bring in the guest. The kitchen door opened. Hank walked in. And behind him walked a woman in a sharp navy suit. She radiated power. It was Elena Rossi, CEO of Western Energy. Kylie looked confused. Who is this? This, I said, is the woman who just signed a contract with me this morning. A contract to lease the mineral rights for the Western lot. Mineral rights? Darrow's head snapped up. What mineral rights? The oil, I said softly. Oil? Kylie whispered. $12 million worth of oil, I said, enjoying the way the words tasted. Sitting right under the toxic land you were too lazy to investigate. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. The air left the room. It was as if I had opened an airlock in space. Kylie stood frozen, her hand clutching the $50,000 check. Her eyes darted from me to Elena Rossi, then to the document she had just signed. Oil, she squeaked. That's impossible. Richard said it was shale. He said it was worthless. Richard lied to everyone, Kylie, I said, walking around the table to stand next to Elena. He lied to me about loving me. He lied to you about marrying you. And he lied to you about the money. He kept the geological surveys in the basement. He was waiting to divorce me so he wouldn't have to share it. But he died. And because he was too arrogant to update his corporate filings, Phoenix Holdings belongs to me. And now, so does the oil. Darrow, the lawyer, grabbed the release form from the table. He scanned it frantically. His orange tan seemed to drain away, leaving him a sickly beige. This waiver covers subsurface assets, he muttered. Ms. Miller, you signed away rights to everything. You let me sign it. Kylie screamed at him, shoving his shoulder. You're a terrible lawyer. You didn't tell me there was oil. Darrow shouted back. You said it was a bankruptcy settlement. I didn't know. Kylie wailed. She turned to me, her face twisting into a mask of pure desperation. Meredith. Mirbear, you can't do this. That's my money. Richard and I found this place. We built this. You built a house, I said coldly. On my land. With my money. And now, you've sold your claim to it for $50,000. I'll tear up the check. Kylie yelled. She ripped the cashier's check into tiny pieces and threw them at me like confetti. There. The deal is off. I don't accept it. Steinberg stepped forward, adjusting his glasses. Actually, Ms. Miller, the contract is binding upon signature, not payment cashing. You can tear up the check, but you can't tear up the contract. You just lost $50,000, in addition to the $12 million. Kylie let out a sound that wasn't human. It was a guttural screech. She lunged across the table, knocking over a pitcher of water. You thief! You witch! I'll kill you! Hank stepped in front of me, his arms crossed. He didn't need to do anything else. His sheer bulk stopped her. Elena Rossi cleared her throat. She looked at Kylie with the cool disdain of a woman who ran billion-dollar companies. Mrs. Bowman, Elena said to me, ignoring Kylie completely. Is this the complication you mentioned? Just a loose end, I said. It's tied up now. Good, Elena said. She placed a sleek folder on the table. My team is ready to start preliminary drilling next week. The initial signing bonus has been wired to your account. $2 million. The rest will follow as production begins. 2 million. Mom whispered. She was still sitting in her chair, looking faint. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a sudden, dawning realization. She realized she had bet on the wrong horse. Meredith, Mom said, her voice trembling. Baby. Daughter. I didn't know the extent of it. Richard manipulated us all. He turned us against each other. Don't, I said, holding up a hand. Don't try to rewrite history, Mom. You took the money. You watched him treat me like dirt. But I'm your mother, she cried, tears streaming down her face, real tears this time, tears of regret for a lost fortune. We're family. You wouldn't let us starve while you sit on millions. I looked at the woman who had guilt-tripped me out of my scholarship. The woman who had taught me that my only value was in service to others. I won't let you starve, I said. I'm sure there are very nice state-funded facilities that will take you in. But as for my money? Not a penny. You spent your inheritance from me. It was $2,000 a month for 5 years. Kylie was pacing the room now, hyperventilating. This isn't real. This is a nightmare. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to tell everyone you forged the will. Go ahead, I said. And I'll show everyone the video of you laughing about me being homeless. I'll show the judge the text messages. I'll show the IRS the tax evasion Richard committed using your name. Kylie froze. What? Oh, did I forget to mention? I smiled. I found the tax returns in the war room. Richard used your social security number to open credit lines for his shell companies. You're listed as the guarantor for about $3 million in unpaid loans. No. Kylie breathed. Yes, I said. Since you're not his wife, you're not protected by the estate laws on those specific loans. You signed the papers, Kylie. I saw your signature. You signed anything he put in front of you because you thought he was a genius. Kylie looked at Darrow. Fix this. Darrow closed his briefcase. Ms. Miller, I'm resigning as your counsel. You can't pay me. And I'm not going down for fraud. He walked out. Kylie stood alone in the center of the room. The sheet-covered furniture looked like ghosts surrounding her. She looked at the luxury she thought she was owed, realized it was all smoke and mirrors, and then she looked at me. And for the first time, she didn't see her idiot big sister. She saw the person who held the keys to her survival. Meredith, please, she whimpered, falling to her knees. It was a pathetic sight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He made me do it. I was scared. Please, don't leave me with the debt. Help me. I looked down at her. I remembered the video. Is she gone yet? You wanted the manor, Kylie, I said softly. You wanted the life. Well, you got the debt that came with it. I suggest you get a job. I hear the diner in town is hiring. Get out, I said. Meredith, Mom started. Get out! I screamed, slamming my hand on the table. Get off my property before I have you arrested for trespassing. Kylie scrambled up, sobbing hysterically. She grabbed Mom's arm and they fled the house, the sound of Kylie's weeping echoing down the hall. I stood there, breathing hard. My heart was racing, but for the first time in years, it wasn't from anxiety. It was from power. I looked at Elena Rossi. I apologize for the domestic disturbance, I said, smoothing my cardigan. Elena smiled. It was a genuine smile. Mrs. Bowman, I deal with oil barons and politicians every day. I haven't seen a negotiation handled that well in 20 years. You're a force of nature. I'm learning, I said. Hank walked over and handed me a glass of whiskey. To the Queen, he said, clinking his glass against mine. To the Phoenix, I corrected. I thought that was the end of it. I thought seeing them run with their tails between their legs was the climax. But life, unlike the movies, has a way of delivering the aftershocks. 2 days later, I was in the war room with Hank, organizing the demolition schedule. I wanted the main house, the manor, gone. I couldn't live in a shrine to my husband's infidelity. I was going to bulldoze it and build something smaller, something eco-friendly, something me on the other side of the property, overlooking the gardens. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Bowman? A stern male voice. This is Detective Miller from the State Police. My heart jumped. Yes. We have a young woman in custody. Kylie Miller. She tried to cash a forged check at a bank in town, and when she was detained, she started screaming that you stole $12 million from her and that she was going to burn your house down. I closed my eyes and sighed. Is she under arrest? Yes, ma'am. For forgery and uttering threats. But she's claiming she's your sister and that this is a misunderstanding. She wants you to bail her out. I looked at Hank. He was watching me, waiting. Officer, I said. She is my sister. But she is also a danger to herself and others. I have a restraining order pending. Do not release her. Understood. We also found, she had a lot of documents in her car. Loan applications. It looks like she was trying to take out loans in your name. So she hadn't stopped. Even after the confrontation, she tried to steal my identity again to save herself. Press charges, I said firmly. I will cooperate fully. Very well. We'll need you to come down to the station to give a statement. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up. Kylie? Hank asked. Arrested, I said. Trying to forge checks. Some people don't know when to fold them, Hank shook his head. I drove to the police station. It was a small, brick building in the nearby town. When I walked in, I could hear Kylie before I saw her. My sister is rich. She'll fire all of you. Give me my phone. I walked into the holding area. Kylie was handcuffed to a bench. Her mascara was smeared down her cheeks, her black dress was rumpled, and she looked like a wild animal. When she saw me, she stopped screaming. Her face crumpled. Meredith! Thank God! Tell them it's a mistake. I needed cash for gas. I was going to pay you back. I stood on the other side of the bars. I looked at her. I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt pity. Deep, exhausting pity. You tried to take out a loan in my name, Kylie, I said quietly. The detective showed me the papers. I was desperate, she cried. Mom kicked me out. She said I ruined everything. I have nowhere to go. So you decided to steal from me again? I had to. I can't work at a diner. I'm me. That's exactly the problem, I said. You're you. You've never been told no in your life. Well, the world is telling you no now. Please, she whispered, grabbing the bars. Please, Mir. Don't leave me here. It's cold. They took my shoes. I stepped closer. Do you remember when I was 12, and you were a baby, and Dad left? I swore I would always protect you. I gave up my life for you. I gave up France. I gave up my dreams. I know, she sobbed. And you repaid me by sleeping with my husband and laughing about me dying alone. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't a currency, Kylie. It doesn't pay debts. I turned to the detective. I'm ready to sign the complaint. No! Kylie screamed as I walked away. Meredith! I'm your sister. You can't do this. Mom will never forgive you. I stopped at the door. I looked back one last time. Mom isn't answering my calls, Kylie, I said. She knows where the money is. She's probably writing me an apology letter right now. But don't worry. I won't read it. I walked out of the station. The heavy metal door clanged shut behind me, sealing the past away. The demolition began a week later. It was a symbolic cleansing. I hired a crew to tear down the manor. Watching the excavator claw into the roof of the master bedroom was the most satisfying thing I had ever seen. The walk-in closet, the velvet headboard, the pretension, it all turned to rubble. I stood with Hank, wearing a hard hat, drinking coffee. There goes the jacuzzi, Hank commented as a crash echoed across the valley. Good riddance, I said. During the cleanup, the foreman called me over. Mrs. Bowman? We found a wall safe behind the fireplace. It cracked open when the chimney fell. There's something inside. I walked over the debris. A small metal box sat in the dust. I opened it. It wasn't money. It wasn't jewelry. It was a single envelope, sealed with wax. Written on the front in Richard's handwriting was, for Kylie. To be opened only in case of my death. I frowned. Why hadn't he given this to his lawyer? Or kept it in the war room? I tore it open. Inside was a letter. Kylie. If you're reading this, I'm dead. Which means you're probably panicking about the loans. I'm writing this because, believe it or not, you were the only fun thing in my life for the last few years. But let's be real. You're not wife material. You're a liability. That's why I made you sign the guarantor papers for the construction loans. I needed someone to hold the bag if the oil deal fell through. I couldn't use Meredith, her credit needed to stay clean so I could leverage the main house. I was planning to leave for Brazil next month. Alone. I transferred the last of the liquid cash to an offshore account, details below, good luck accessing it without the codes I memorized. I was going to leave Meredith with the foreclosure and you with the construction debt. So, sorry, babe. You are a great distraction, but business is business. Don't try to find me. R. I stared at the letter. My mouth fell open. He hadn't just been playing me. He had been playing her too. He was going to abandon both of us. He was going to leave Kylie with millions in debt and run away with the cash. The love Kylie thought they shared? It was just another con. She was just another donkey to him, just a prettier one. I felt a strange, twisted sense of vindication. Richard was a monster to everyone. It wasn't about me being not enough. It was about him being a sociopath. What is it? Hank asked. A confession, I said. Richard was going to dump Kylie and flee the country. Wow, Hank said. That guy really was a piece of work. I need to send this to her, I said. Why? Let her rot. Because, I said, folding the letter. She thinks she lost a great love. She thinks I took him from her. She needs to know that she never had him. It's the final nail in the coffin. I mailed a copy of the letter to the county jail. I heard later from the detective that when Kylie read it, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at the wall for 3 hours, completely silent. The illusion had finally shattered. 6 months later. The farm looked different now. The gaudy mansion was gone. In its place, on a knoll overlooking the restored gardens, stood a modern, glass-and-wood studio home. It was modest, sustainable, and entirely mine. The oil pumps were working in the western lot. Elena Rossi had kept her word. The operation was clean, quiet, and incredibly profitable. The first royalty check had cleared the debt on my old house, which I sold immediately and paid off the liens on the farm. I was debt-free. And I was rich. But money doesn't fix everything. I was still lonely sometimes. I still woke up reaching for a husband who wasn't there, before remembering he was a traitor. One afternoon, a car pulled up to the gate. It wasn't a fancy car. It was a taxi. I watched on the new security system. My mother got out. She looked older. Frilier. She was carrying a casserole dish. I debated not opening the gate. I really did. But curiosity, or maybe a lingering thread of daughterly duty, made me buzz her in. I met her on the porch. I didn't invite her inside. Meredith, she said, her voice trembling. I brought your favorite. Lasagna. I'm gluten intolerant, Mom, I said. I have been for 10 years. You'd know that if you ever asked. She looked at the casserole, then set it down on the porch swing. Right. Of course. I just wanted to see you. You want money, I said. No, she protested too quickly. No. Okay, yes. I'm struggling, Meredith. The nursing home, it's not nice. The food is awful. And Kylie, legal fees are expensive. Kylie is in prison, I said. For fraud. She doesn't need money. She needs a lawyer, a public defender. She's your sister. She's a criminal who tried to ruin me. Mom started to cry. I failed you both. I know that. I was weak. Richard, he was so charming. He made me feel taken care of. He bought you, I said. There's a difference. Can you ever forgive me? She asked. I looked at the woman who had raised me. I saw the fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me, but fear of being poor. I can forgive you, I said slowly. Because holding on to the anger is poisoning me. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. It doesn't mean you get to come back into my life and drain me again. I pulled an envelope out of my pocket. I had been carrying it around for weeks, wondering if I should use it. This is a check, I said. It's for $20,000. It's enough to get you into a better facility for a year. Or you can spend it on Kylie's appeals. It's your choice. Mom reached for the check with greedy hands. But this is it, I said, holding it back for a second. This is the last penny you will ever get from me. If you call me, if you come here, if you send flying monkeys, I will block you. I will disappear. Do you understand? Yes, she whispered. Yes, Meredith. Thank you. She took the check. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask how I was doing. She just looked at the amount, sighed in relief, and turned to walk back to the taxi. I watched her go. It hurt. It hurt like hell to realize that my mother's love had a price tag, and I had just paid the final installment. But as the taxi drove away, the hurt began to fade, replaced by a lightness I hadn't felt in decades. The cord was cut. I walked back into my house. CTA moment. I walked to the massive window overlooking the valley. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, colors I used to use in my designs. I thought about you. The people listening to this story. I know some of you have felt this. the betrayal of a spouse, the disappointment of a parent, the jealousy of a sibling. You felt like the donkey, the one carrying the load while everyone else rides in the cart. If you are still listening to this, if you are still with me on this journey from the bathroom floor of a funeral home to this house on the hill, I want to ask you something. Please, take a moment right now. Like this video and comment the number 1 below. Why 1? Because for the first time in my life, I put myself first. I became number 1 in my own story. And I want to know that you are prioritizing yourself too. Let me know you're out there. Let me know you're fighting for your own self-worth. Seeing your comments, seeing those ones, it tells me I'm not alone. It tells me we are a legion of survivors. So please, drop a 1 in the comments. Let's stand together. And now, let me tell you how I finally found peace. With the family drama finally behind me, I turned my attention to what really mattered, my art. I had spent 20 years building landscapes for Richard's tacky developments. Now, I wanted to build something real. I started the Phoenix Project. Using the land on the eastern side of the farm, the fertile part, away from the oil wells, I began to design a public botanical garden. I wanted to create a sanctuary. A place where women who had been through trauma could come to heal. I hired Hank as the head groundskeeper. I paid him triple what Richard had promised him. He bought a new truck and finally fixed his teeth. "You're wasting money on flowers," Hank grumbled one day, planting a row of rare orchids. "You could buy a yacht." "I don't want a yacht, Hank," I said, pruning a rosebush. "I want to see things grow. I've seen enough destruction." One day, a young woman walked onto the property. She had a sketchbook under her arm. "Are you Meredith Bowman?" she asked shyly. "I am. I read about you in the Architecture Digest. They said you're building a sanctuary garden. I'm a student. I was wondering if you take apprentices?" I looked at her. She reminded me of myself at 20. Eager. Talented. "I don't have an apprenticeship program," I said. The girl's face fell. "But," I added, "I do need someone to help me draft the plans for the koi pond. Do you know CAD?" "Yes," she beamed. "You're hired." Her name was Sarah. Mentoring her became the joy of my life. I gave her the guidance I never got. I taught her to value her work, to never let a man put his name on her designs, to always have a separate bank account. One afternoon, Sarah asked me, "Do you miss him? Your husband?" I paused. I looked at the garden we were building. "I miss who I thought he was," I admitted. "But I don't miss the way he made me feel small." I learned that you can be lonely in a marriage, and you can be fulfilled alone. I prefer the latter. Kylie was sentenced to 3 years in prison. She sent me letters sometimes, asking for commissary money, blaming the lawyers, blaming Mom. She never took responsibility. I stopped reading them. Mom went into the nursing home. I heard she told everyone there that her daughter was a famous oil tycoon who was too busy to visit. She lived in her fantasy world until the end. As for me, I stopped dyeing my hair. I let the gray come in. It looked like silver streaks. I liked it. It looked like wisdom. 3 years passed. The Phoenix Gardens opened to the public. It was a massive success. People came from all over the state to walk through the healing maze and sit by the reflection pool. On opening day, I gave a speech. I stood on a podium, wearing a dress I had designed and sewn myself, a deep blue silk, nothing like the rags I used to wear. "This garden is proof," I told the crowd, "that you can bury something in dirt, you can pile garbage on top of it, you can poison it, but if the roots are strong, it will grow back. It will bloom." I saw Hank in the crowd, wiping a tear from his eye. After the ceremony, a man approached me. He was older, with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair. "Mrs. Bowman?" he asked. "I'm David. I'm the architect who designed the visitor center." "I know who you are, David," I smiled. "You did excellent work on the roofline." "I was wondering," he said, looking a little nervous. "If you're not too busy celebrating, would you like to get coffee? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Japanese maple placement." I hesitated. I hadn't been on a date since Richard died. I hadn't trusted a man since the video. But David didn't look at me like I was a donkey or a bank account. He looked at me like I was an artist. "Coffee sounds good," I said. We sat on a bench in the garden. We talked for hours. Not about money. Not about status. We talked about soil pH, about light angles, about the best way to prune wisteria. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't the passionate, toxic roller coaster I had with Richard. It was warm. It was steady. "You have a beautiful laugh," David said at one point. I stopped. "I do?" "Yes. It sounds free." I realized he was right. I was laughing. Really laughing. I wasn't looking for a savior. I didn't need a husband to complete me. But having a companion? Someone to share the sunset with? That might be nice. I took it slow. We went to dinner. We went to museums. I kept my finances separate. I kept my house separate. David respected that. He had his own life, his own career. He didn't need my shine to feel bright. One evening, sitting by the fire in my studio, David asked about the old farmhouse ruins that were still visible in the distance, a few stone foundations I had left as a reminder. "What happened there?" he asked. "A castle fell," I said. "And I built a home from the stones." Kylie was released from prison last month. She called me. The number was from a halfway house. "Meredith?" Her voice was rougher, older. "Hello, Kylie. I'm out." "I know." I have nothing, Meredith. No clothes. No money. Mom passed away while I was inside. I know. I paid for the funeral. I wasn't allowed to go. I know. Silence stretched between us. "Can I come home?" she asked. "Can I come to the farm? Just for a while? Until I get on my feet?" I looked out the window. Sarah was in the garden, teaching a class of children how to plant bulbs. David was walking up the driveway with takeout food. My life was full. My life was peaceful. "No, Kylie," I said. "But I'm your sister." "And I'm your sister," I said. "Which is why I'm doing this. If you come here, you'll fall back into the same patterns. You'll try to leech. You'll try to manipulate. And I will resent you. We will destroy each other." "So what do I do?" she cried. "You figure it out," I said. "Like I did. You get a job. You pay your rent. You learn who Kylie is when she's not pretending to be a queen. That's cruel. It's the kindest thing I can do." I sent a package to the halfway house. It has some clothes. Practical clothes. And a list of job agencies. "That is my final gift to you." "I hate you," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But I love myself enough to not care anymore." I hung up. I didn't block the number this time. I didn't need to. Her words couldn't hurt me. They were just noise. David walked in. "Who was that?" the past, I said. Calling to see if I still lived there. And I told her I moved. David smiled and kissed my forehead. Hungry? I got Thai food. Starving, I said. I am standing on the highest hill of the farm now. It's sunset. The oil pumps in the distance are rhythmically bowing to the earth, pumping security into my bank account. The gardens below are a riot of color, closing up for the night. I hold Richard's old phone in my hand. I kept it all these years. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder. I turn it on. The battery is almost dead. I played the video one last time. Is she gone yet? The old donkey, she'll be homeless by Christmas. I look at the screen. I look at the man I wasted 20 years on. He looks small now. Pathetic. A caricature of a villain. She is gone, I whisper to the video. The Meredith you knew? The donkey? The doormat? She died the day she watched this video. And the woman who replaced her? I smile, feeling the cool evening breeze on my face. She's doing just fine. I wind up my arm and throw the phone. It sails through the air, spinning end over end, catching the last rays of the sun. It lands somewhere in the deep brush of the ravine, lost forever. I turn around. I see my studio, glowing with warm light. I see David waving from the porch. I see my dogs running in the grass. I have scars. I have regrets. I lost my family. But I found myself. I walk down the hill, my steps light, my head high. I am Meredith Bowman. I am the phoenix. And I have risen. And so, Meredith's journey reminds us of an essential truth: life's greatest transformations often rise from the ashes of our deepest betrayals. Her story is not just about loss, but about rediscovery, of strength, of self-worth, and of the power to rebuild. It teaches us that no matter how broken we may feel, we always have the ability to rise, to reclaim our narrative, and to define our own worth. This is a story of resilience and the courage to let go. Let go of the people who diminish you, the lies that bind you, and the fear that keeps you small. Meredith's triumph is a testament to the idea that when we prioritize ourselves, we create space for growth, healing, and the life we truly deserve. It's a reminder that self-respect is not selfish, it's survival. What about you? What lessons did this story spark in your heart? Share your thoughts below or simply comment good if this reflection resonates with you. Let's inspire each other to rise, just like the phoenix.